South Africa have won the final ODI against Ireland by 70 runs. And yet I'm still sitting here with some question marks over the performance. There's one question mark that has been answered 100%, and that's Janneman Malan. I think that his opening spot in ODIs is now officially has to be sealed. I don't know how you guys feel about Janneman Malan, but the performance that he put on today, his all-round game, how he played the spinners, how he played against, how he ran between the wickets, how he measured his innings, how he batted deep right until the end. All of those things are pushing me in the direction of that's the guy that needs to open up with Quinton de Kock. The bowling was, I wouldn't say that I was very happy with the way all the bowlers bowled. I think a very improved performance from Andile Peglikwayo. I think Lazard Williams getting a wicket on his first ball of his first ever innings in ODI cricket. I think that was excellent. I think Keshav Maharaj bowled well. I think Shamsi bowled well. I think Nokia struggled a little bit, but he, generally speaking, overall decent bowling performance. We could have been better though. We could have been tighter. I think if we had KG, we had maybe even if we had Lungi, maybe we would have restricted them to less runs. But you have to take your hats off for Mr. Singh. Excellent performance from the man. I mean, it's the highest ever score in ODI cricket in the number 8 position. He's now taken that mantle at the top of the tree. So excellent performance from him. I think that Curtis Camphor come back to South Africa. I'm just kidding, but a good performance from that young man. I mean, we know what he's capable of. But I think overall, I still don't feel like I'm not going to sit here and be all happy about it, because I think that there's certain things that then we still need to sort out, i.e. our fielding. Very poor fielding from some people on this field today. A lot of mistakes. Still a lot of inconsistencies. You see the inconsistencies more in the longer formats like in ODI. Those inconsistencies come out and they rear their head a lot more than in T20 cricket. But we're going to be reviewing the show today. We're going to be chatting about all of this on the show with my panelists. We're going to have a massive discussion. To be honest, I don't know everybody that's going to be coming on. I just threw the link in a couple of WhatsApp groups that we have, and I'm hoping that quite a few people tune in. But we always have a great conversation no matter what. So I'm really excited for this one. To the guys that are new to this channel, haven't been here before, haven't seen our content before, because there is about 54% of you that are watching the video. Oh, actually, sorry, I'm lying. 46% of you that are watching the videos without subscribing. So please hit the subscribe button. Click that notification bell for all future videos. That means that the content is interesting enough for you guys to watch it, but you're not clicking that subscribe button. So just click that red subscribe button right now and click that notification bell, please, at the bottom of the screen. You can do that right now, this side of the screen. And also smash that like button. Let's get this trending. Share it on your WhatsApp status. Share it on all of your channels. And let's get straight into today's discussion. Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your review show. I'm your host Khalid. This is the show where we talk about everything that has to do with the match between Ireland and South Africa. If I could give you guys like a little camera, right? That you guys could see the backstage before the people come onto the screens.
Oh yeah, the song is great.
You would love it.
You'd see us dancing.
Dad's cool with the background. He just chills there in the background. He's just chilled. Aditya chilled. Boss, having a party there at the back. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the show, guys. I'm really excited to chat to all of you. Let's get into it. What's your thoughts? Aditya, let's go Aditya, and Paul, and then Dan. What are your thoughts on the game so far?
Yeah, no, the song is great. It's just dancing. It's just chilling. 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 It's just
Well, the mood is definitely a lot better than it was yesterday when we were doing our preview. I think we were all quite grim because the performance from the previous game was still fresh in our minds. But today, it was uh, it was great. Obviously, a significant improvement. Scoring 346 was a brilliant effort, and at one stage, I felt like 370, even 380 might be possible. The way Quinton was going, and I was hoping that this is the start of many such 330 plus scores for South Africa. Janneman Malan, what a batsman! What an appetite he's got for runs. Um, Outstanding. To be able to make 177, really looking at his stamina to make big runs was so impressive to see. Because even the 129 he had made against Australia, he remained unbeaten. So I just love that attitude. He was brilliant today. Quinton and Janneman look like a proper lethal opening pair, and I hope he gets a lot more game time. Um, to get to 346, excellent. I was very happy to see that, and and what impressed me most was that Ireland was a disciplined bowling unit. They've put good balls to the boundary, and if you look at the scorecard in 50 overs, Ireland has just conceded three wides. So whatever they've done, maybe they've gotten lengths wrong at times or lines wrong, but to be able to bowl three wides in 300 deliveries, that is an incredibly disciplined effort, and I applaud them for it. Um, as for South Africa, I guess suppose the fielding could be a little bit better, and I think there needs to be a little bit of work there because we saw an improvement in the test setup, but then as we've gone into the ODI setup, it seems a bit wonky. And I suppose a little bit of discipline in the bowling unit because compared to Ireland's three wides in 50 overs, South Africa have bowled 13 wides and two no balls. So a little bit of discipline in the bowling unit also would help, but overall, no complaints. And Harsh is asking how many dot balls did South Africa play today? The answer is 114.
One one
And of
four or
course,
140.
114.
Okay, much better.
Yeah.
of course, Atitya's happy that his prediction is almost spot on with regards to South Africa. I just want to say thank you to the super chat quickly before Paul goes. Malan must open in all limited overs cricket for RSAs. Thank you a lot for the super chat. Paul, thoughts?
I agree with John. You need to give Janneman's guaranteed himself up until the World Cup to be Quinton's partner. You can come and fight me if you want to. I'll give you my address if you want to do that. I think he's deserved it. Every time this man has come out to play for South Africa, he's put up big numbers. He's put up big runs. If I was being a critic and I was being very harsh, it would be he needs to reduce a lot of his dot balls. I felt that he left a lot of runs on the table. Because if you give any of the other top two batsmen in the bigger teams in world cricket 169 balls and say you won't get out, it's not going to be 177. It's closer to 200, or even if they're breaking 200. So it's something he'll grow in with. But I was super impressed. He put a value on his wicket. Well, towards the end, he was just making sure the ball wasn't hitting the off stump and getting that outside edge there. But it was really good to see. Quinton de Kock. Oh my word, Quinny. Can we just bottle this form? Bottle it, and then send it to the UAE, but not for the IPL, just for the World Cup, because man, oh man, Quinny's seeing it like a beach ball. The rest of the batting lineup, I think, were okay. I think it was a window thing, because we have a lot of top order batsmen coming in and over 35 is not going to help. I thought Rassi tried to do it and tried to get it going, but the trick to this is making sure Janneman gets a lot more balls, and that happened, and he was finding the boundary towards the end. So they did play it well. I kind of felt, I know I predicted 350 on Twitter, but looking at how we managed from over 35 to over 40, I think we actually could have gotten to 375. And so that's something that the team can work on, but thoroughly happy. Against a better side, this is still a competitive defending total, But then the bowling, on the other hand, they still need to bring that energy. They still need to bring that focus. And it wasn't the best bowling performance across the board. I think the person who bowled well was Keshav. Tabraiz bowled well. But the only problem with Keshav is if he's going to bowl in the middle overs, we're going to need more consistent wickets. Keshav is more like an economy bowler, so that's great. He holds you, but you're going to need to pair him with someone who's going to take wickets on the other end. And Tabraiz today wasn't taking a lot of wickets. We kind of let that Curtis Kamfasimi Singh, who batted incredibly well, by the way. Oh, my word, I love that Simi Singh 100. But we kind of let it go, so we needed to break partnerships and get a lot more wickets going there. But yeah, and then it got sloppy. That's the problem, especially when you're defending 350. It gets sloppy, and it got a lot sloppy with those drops. And you kind of felt that guys were enjoying the Irish sunshine, and the question was, guys, why don't you just get it over quickly? We'll go to the pub, grab a pint, and then we'll get ready for the next one. But they didn't want to because maybe they don't drink like the rest of us do. So, yeah, but really happy that they've brought it back. Obviously, we want consistency. This up and down is not good for anybody because you're going to make us realize we've got comorbidities in the world of COVID because of the Proteas. So please, we need some consistency and we need to reproduce this. And the question will be, if we lose a wicket early, can we still score 333? But it's good that we've got two guys at the top that can take games away from opposition and keep you in games. And so really happy about that.
Dan, for you, what's on the lineup? Obviously, with regards to Heinrich Klaassen coming in, of course, and David Miller being dropped, and Aiden Markram getting dropped as well. What was your thoughts on that?
So I think Miller, I think we all hope for Miller to get a rest. I think he's earned a break. The pressure on him must be, I think, between Miller and Andila, I think they're probably the two players under the most pressure at the moment. And while I understand kind of keeping heartstrings hot, at the same time, if someone's really feeling a lot of pressure, giving them a little bit of a break is never a bad thing. What I would agree with is I think the question about openers is settled. Janneman Malan has more than played his way into the side. I'm just looking now at his wagon wheel, 177 off of 169, 16 fours, 6 sixes. Those are standout figures for an opener. Maybe not as aggressive as we'd like. A lot of maidens, but stable as a table, and that's what you need. What is bothering me, though, to be the rain on the parade, is the fielding. South Africa's traditionally been a strong fielding side since the days of Jonty Rhodes. And we've now seen 2 games with, and I'm not saying these are like easy catches or sitters, but they're catches you'd expect a professional cricketer to make. Catches when matches is probably the first or second thing all of us have heard when we did Baker's baby cricket. So there, I would say that's one of the things that I would like to see that the team address is the fielding. And the bowling at the death has always been a problem. Well, not always been a problem, but for as long as I've been a Proteas fan. Oh, I do have. Okay.
Yeah, after you're done.
After you're done, all right.
Yeah.
As long as I've been a Proteas fan, we've struggled at the death. I remember there was a game against Australia, a Test series, where we were at the necks. I think it was 120 for 7, and then I think it was still Brett Lee at the time got a century for some other reason because we just our bowling just wasn't aggressive enough at the death. Looking at Petlakwayo's heat map. Lots of full tosses again. I don't like a full toss in Pro 20. Yeah, you can bait the batsman into taking a swing, but at ODI, a full toss is basically saying have 4 runs. Here's a 6. Here's your photograph on Facebook. like the line has to be tighter. And with that, let me get my headphones on.
Okay, awesome. So generally speaking, guys, let's talk about it more in depth because there's a couple of things that I would like to discuss. Like the one thing that really stood out to me that I was a bit worried about was I wouldn't say worried. This is also me being a little bit maybe petty. At the time when Quinton de Kock lost his wicket, I would have hoped that they would have maybe given someone like Calverena, or if you want to back Heinrich Klaassen in your side and pick him consistently, then bring him in and let him have a go. Or if you're looking to get Temba on form, send Temba in. They brought Rassie in, which is understandable in this particular game. If you're going for the win, you're going for that score. It made total sense from that perspective why they brought Rassie in, because he's the man for that job. But I'm in the broader sense of things and looking towards the future and with the aim of also trying to give some guys opportunities, I think they needed a couple of a good run in a good situation for those batsmen to come in at that particular time and have a go. A lot of guys were calling for Calverena maybe coming in after Quinton de Kock lost his wicket. Some guys were saying no, maybe. Okay, I was one of the guys who said maybe give Temba a run because he's desperate of runs. What it will do for him if he had to score some runs, I think it would have taken a lot of pressure off him, or at least some of the pressure off him from the fans around. And I know he doesn't look on Twitter and watch what everybody's saying about him, but I think it would have taken a little bit of pressure off him just to go into the T20 series. But and some guys will say, yeah, but if you're back in Andy Klaassen and he's in your team and you see him as that person, then throw him in, because otherwise what's the point of dropping Aiden in the first place then if you're not going to give him a proper opportunity, Andy Klaassen, to actually go and prove himself? And the match was set up perfectly for any of those batsmen. Who wants to go?
I'll go. I think what the selection today kind of gave us an inkling into Boucher's mind is that he sees Aiden as an opener. I know a lot of people are saying Aiden should bat lower down the order, but he sees Aiden as an opener. If they were going to drop Miller and bring in Quinny, if Aiden was more versatile like they are using him in T20s, Aiden would have dropped down the order today, but he didn't. So I think that's the one thing, and I think even probably in the press conference it'll come out that he sees Aiden as an opener. I think for me, I kind of felt that today it wasn't the day for Timber because of how late the guys come in. Timber's your secondary anchor. If you lose a lot of wickets, you want him to bat about 100 balls, 120 balls, get you that 100 and kind of be that anchor in that side. But Janneman did an incredible job to this, so there was no need. So that's why they threw all those guys in. And it was kind of just picking guys and putting them at the wall. The difference, I think, for me was I was surprised that Petluguayo came in instead of Calverena, largely because of Petluguayo's strike rate being around about the 88s, whereas Calverena can strike a ball of over 100. So for me, that was just the only issue that I was having. I was like, why are we bringing Andile in when you should effectively bring? Yes, they brought Rassie in because there was still a lot of time to bat with Janneman. But then after Rassie wicket fell, Klaassen was fine, but then Vereno should have been the next guy to come in, and I agree with you there. I think David Miller would be kicking himself because this is a game where it had Miller written all over it to come in at 3. So it's just it's a little bit tough because you're like, oh man, if only David was there, because David's the type of guy who can take your total from 350 to 400 if he bats. If we can get to see another version of Miller time. So yeah, for me, that's what it was. But I kind of think now we figured out what Mark's thinking. And I think in the middle order, I think Aiden Markram's not gonna make it in unless there is an injury to Rassie. Because if there's an injury to Rassie, I think then Aiden will slot in. But yeah, it just kind of felt as though if you wanted to keep Aiden, you would have, but he didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I think Aiden is seen as an opener, and I would also prefer Verena to come in. I think the experiment with Petluguayo is to see whether or not he can be your pinch hitter, your guy that comes in and scores a home run, scores a couple of sixes, maybe gets 28 off of 6 or 28 off of 12, and then goes out. And I don't know if that's his role, really. I don't see him play that way at the Dolphins when I follow domestic cricket. There's definitely, and this is something that both the lads on Guerrilla Cricket SA and we've been talking about, is there seems to be this disconnect between what the players are doing domestically and what they're doing internationally. And if there's one thing Rassie Erasmus, our great rugby coach, has taught us, is that you can't have that disconnect. If someone is a pinch hitter in domestic, they're a pinch hitter international. We can't just make it so that a guy is just magically capable of doing everything all the time. That's just not realistic.
Personally, I actually appreciated the intention behind sending Andile up, because we've been talking about his strike rate for quite a while, and the fact that he hasn't been able to deliver those big hits when needed in the first innings or the second innings of the game. And I felt like this was a perfect opportunity for him to really land a few lusty blows and take that score from 346 to perhaps 366 or 370. He missed out today, but hopefully similar situations present themselves whereby Andile can be sent with a little bit of time to go in the game, and he can make a substantial score at a higher rate, because so I think South Africa desperately need that. Today, the top order performed. We had 200s from the openers, but we can't always expect that, of course. And we've got Rassie at number 4, who's been extremely consistent. But again, it's that 5, 6, and 7 that remain a concern. And they need to be tested more frequently, I suppose. So all in all, I think I appreciated the fact that Andile was sent out of position.
Do you think that he can play that role, though, that we're looking for? It comes across to me that they're looking for him to be that slogger. And for me, I think Andile is not the type of person. I think over the years, they've been feeding him that knowledge and feeding him that information. When Lance Klusener spoke about him, said he can become a batter, he can become that number 7 role, he can smack the ball, etc. He must work on his batting. And yet, with the Proteas as well, it's a similar thing. They're trying to give him that responsibility to become a slogger in the team. That kind of that role that Chris Morris should be playing, in the side, coming in and smacking a massive. Okay, yes, we've seen him bat in situations like I remember with Heinrich Klaassen against India. He put on an excellent performance over there to help us win that rain-affected game at the Wanderers, I think it was. So like there are certain times where I've seen Andile do it, but his most beautiful innings are the ones like we saw when he scored that 60 recently in the ODI format, where he took his time and he scored a good runs. Do you think, Mpo, that he needs a little bit more time at the crease? Is he that another batsman like that, or can he become a slogger? Is he young enough to change that or add to his game?
Well, look, he is young enough to change that. The only problem I think with South Africans is that we're trying to find someone who's going to strike at a higher strike rate in those periods. And at this point in Andile's career, I'm selecting him as a bowler. I'm not selecting him as a batsman. Yes, he bats at number 7, but quite frankly, we don't have those batsmen to do that. Or those batsmen to do that are sitting at home. I'm hearing Vian Mulder's name being thrown around. Vian Mulder is not a slog hitter. He has some lusty blows in thingy, but he's a proper batsman. He's a number 6. But the other problem is in domestic cricket, where does Andile bat? For his franchise, he bats at 7. And he doesn't do the slogging role. If they need the slogging role, last season they used Robbie Freiling. So for me, it's either you have a concerted effort, and I think we spoke about this yesterday, about the batting coach and everything else. If we don't have the Simi Singhs of the world, because Simi Singh scored 100 at number 7, and it was a direct contrast to him and Andile, because Simi managed to get 100 batting with the tail against a quality bowling attack, even though they weren't bowling well today. And Andile is struggling for form. A, you need to give him game time. B, you need to work with him with Neil McKenzie. If he's part of your plans and you want him to play that role, you then have to ensure that he plays that role for his franchise, because he doesn't do that now. And on top of that, you work on that part of the game, And for me, that's where the work needs to come in going to the 2023 World Cup. It's a needs analysis that Mark Boucher and the selectors need to do to figure out what is it they have and what is it they need. And then if they can't find those things they need in the domestic circuit, who's the best person we can manufacture into that role and give them that role? So, for instance, we're struggling with having someone to explode from 6 and 7. So look in domestic cricket to find names. We named guys yesterday. Miguel Pretorius is a name that came up. Tristan Stubbs is a name that came up. Akamane is a name that came up. If you don't like those guys and you still want to persist with Andile, then you need to give Andile as much support that he can get. If not, because you don't want Chris Morris, that's fine. Dwayne Pretorius can do that job for you. He's done it well for the Lions. And it's part of the reasons why Vian bats slightly lower than what we'd like for him, because of what Dwayne can do. So those are the things that you kind of need to go back after this ODI series and figure out as to whether what is Andile's place in the side. Can he still be considered as an all-rounder in the side? And I say no, because his batting has deteriorated badly. His bowling has also deteriorated quite badly as well over the past couple of years. 2020 was not a great year for him, and 2021 isn't also a great year for him as well. So the question is, you kind of need to figure out what you need to do. So if you don't have the guy, go then and identify someone you can work with and mold into that role. Because right now, Andile is stuck between two worlds. He doesn't want to go out and slog because he's going to lose his wicket, because he hasn't had the opportunity to play. He's been stuck in the Caribbean, going room to room, and the only time he gets to play cricket is when the Proteas play an internal game. Outside of that, Andile hasn't gotten any cricket. So it's a little bit hard to ask a man off form to come in and be like, hey, dude, just come and slog. Even though his position in the side is being questioned, and also he's off form. So you kind of need to create the environment for a guy to do that. Today was an environment, but I would rather had someone who's a little bit more settled come in, try and get the runs. It was only like Andile only faced 6 balls, guys. Like, it wasn't like he faced like 20. So it's one of those situations where pick someone like Kyle Verreynne, who's assured of his position in the side, to come and do it, rather than give it to someone who we might not ever see again in Protea colours in ODI cricket, if we're being honest, but based on the way he's played over the past year. Yes, he's had injuries and COVID, but we might not see him again.
Yeah. So Dan, I'm going to let you start with this, because this super chat is going to disappear if I don't answer it now, even though it's not related to this specifically. We can continue with the conversation we're having when Abai comes on, because he was the presser, so he has an opportunity to maybe give us some insight into what happened with regards to Mark Boucher, what he said in the press conference, etc. He can't speak about Janneman Malan. I hope he's listening, because it's embargoed for tomorrow, so we can't be speaking about anything that was on there, just to make sure that we don't say anything about that. But we've got Mark Boucher's things, which is more important right now, I think, to know what he's thinking. But this is the super chat from Ravi, so thank you a lot for Ravi for the super chat. It's taken its time to come on the screen. What's the prediction for the T20 series versus Ireland? Dan, let's kick off with you. What is your prediction for that? What would you like to see in that?
So I love the name Mzansi Comic Club. Ravi's he's a comedian. What I would like to see is continuation of the form in the West Indies. Consistency there. If we're going to play players that didn't play in the West Indies, don't play them all at once. Kind of stagger them a little bit more. I think we're going to see a 2-1. I think Ireland is going to pull one of these back, because Pro 20 is just, it's so dependent on a lot of factors, and it's not always the best team that wins on the day. Not saying that the Irish aren't the best team, just saying that, sometimes things happen. So I would say 2-1 for the T20. And I think South Africa will continue their form.
So, Aditya, for you, who survives from this ODI series for the T20s? Because someone that's now obviously been dropped is someone that's maybe in our first person in our team sheet when it comes to the T20 format. Check
Yes.
that, eh? Aiden, that's proper promotion there. Eh? That's proper promotion.
Yes, I think the team that played the fifth T20 against the West Indies is likely to take the field against Ireland, because that, to me, Aiden batting at 4, Quinny opening, Temba opening with him. I think that combination still needs to be worked out, and I think this series is an opportunity for that. So yeah, I think that's, to me, it looks like that's the route that they're going to go. But yeah, it should be fun. I think South Africa will win the T20 series, hands down.
Paul, this is something I need to ask you, because from a T20 perspective, switching formats like that, ODI to T20, it is a lot different than people realize than when you with a ball specifically. For our openers and those guys, I think there's a little bit of similarities. I feel that you can take over from both innings, but specifically with the way you bowl in ODIs compared to the way you bowl in T20s. Like, do you think these series where they mix it up like this, where you have ODI then a T20, is maybe a good learning curve for players, or do you think it can throw them off their rhythm off a little bit?
And to a certain extent, that's where I think Ireland come into their own in that first T20. If the Proteas bowlers are having to adjust, and we know this team is very slow to adjust, and especially with the ball. Obviously, pre-West Indies, we want to see, obviously, because in the West Indies, they were perfect. Out of the test into the T20s, they were perfect. But obviously now, having played ODIs, those lengths and lines no longer matter. You need to go. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue that consistency. But it gives Ireland an opportunity that in that first T20, they can try and get it while the Proteas bowlers are a little off color, depending on who they pick. Does Lazard get an opportunity instead, and do you rotate your 3 seamers, or do you go with KG and Lungi again? So those are the type of things that you're probably going to have to consider, especially in the bowling department. Has Mark Boucher seen enough of his 11 that he's now wanting to test his depth? Because remember, we've only got 6 T20s left until the World Cup. So it's going to be quite interesting to note as to what they're trying to do. I know from an opening perspective, Temba will open with Quinny. Aiden's going to bat at 3 because they want to try that, and Faf isn't available. And then they're just going to carry on with that. Miller will bat at 5 or 4, depending on how the situation goes. So we kind of sorted with that, obviously knowing that Dwayne Pretorius and potentially Imran Tahir will come in to fit into the squad in some way, shape, or form. But the question is, does he test his bench? So does he give guys like Keshav a run? Does he give Lazard a run? Does he give Calvarena a run to see maybe if he can't be? I don't think if he can't be one of he probably will be one of the traveling batsmen in that reserve corps, but I do think Cal's fighting for a spot with Heinrich Klaassen. So the question is, do you want to test who the rest of the players from 15 to 22 will be in the series, or do you just want to go out and win? Because obviously, to a certain extent, we are preparing, but this series is not like the ODIs where there's like 10 points on it. So you can experiment a little bit more to try and see what else there is out there. So I'm hoping we get to answer a few more questions, especially regarding the squad.
Sorry for my laughing. I'm looking at the live chat, man. And for the soccer lovers that know, someone asked Seamus Coleman where he comes from, and then someone said he's a Scouser. So, sorry, I'm just laughing because I thought it was quite funny. Thanks for you guys in the live chat for making me laugh. Abai, are you ready in the back end there? Let me know. Cool, awesome. Let's bring him on. Okay, Abai, I want to know what Mr. Boucher had to say. Let me know what the guy had to say, what his thoughts were about the match. Is he happy with the way the series ended? Especially particularly this match. Just give us some of the highlights of the Boucher press conference. Obviously, we can't speak about Janneman. It's embargoed for tomorrow. So just give me a shout out about Mark Boucher.
First of all, hello. So Boucher had a lot to say. So there's a lot to talk about. first of all, he doesn't want to make any excuses at all. Everyone's playing for the country, and they've got to play at full intensity. And usually we get a bit of time to soak in the win. We didn't quite have the opportunity to settle. We had to start packing and enter another bubble. So that was kind of his reasoning to justify the quote unquote off day in the second game.
I knew Paul's gonna have that reaction. I knew he's gonna have that reaction.
Is this guy being serious? Did they change your talk between the first ODI and the second ODI?
My lord. Aditya, do you want to say anything about that? I think this would have, if Aditya was in the press conference, I would have gotten a WhatsApp about this, I think.
Well, first off, I think if sorry to interrupt you, but just give me 1 second.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah,
We have to talk about this, Abai. This is a big point.
Right from, we need to go back to the Caribbean first of all, which wasn't the conventional bubble. These guys have gone on boats and, they've had a lot of time out on the sea. Quinton de Kock scoring hundreds meant that he's probably happy out there, in the sea and fishing and things like that. Then they take 5 flights to Ireland from St. Lucia, and then they're here. They've got a golf course, and they're staying on a prime property. And it is difficult to digest the fact that that was the reason given for the off day. Even Charles Langeweld mentioned it in his press conference, calling it bio-bubble fatigue with respect to the performance that was given on the day. So it's Boucher, and
it was the second ODI. We played half a match on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, why are we calling
Exactly.
bio-bubble fatigue for the second ODI when the first one was the one we're supposed to be to have a stinker at?
And we looked pretty decent in the first one, actually.
Yes.
I thought we looked
Yeah.
quite well in the first one.
Like, well, look, the match did end at like 40 at over 42, so we don't know what would have happened after that, and they were like around about 200.
that last bit.
But my thing is that, okay, fine, I get you, but for the first one, you played a game, you played half a game. You can't come and tell me that 2 days later you guys are fatigued. And if you were bio-bubble fatigued, surely it should be this game that you have a stinker on rather than the first 2. Because you're tired, right? You kind of go through the entire series on the back end, unless we're going to see miracles in the T20 series. Because they're going to go into a new bio-bubble when they go to Belfast.
Yeah. Abba, do you have anything on that? Did he speak about anything about that? If the move to T20s now, and whether he's using some of the guys in the ODIs for T20s, did he mention anything about that? Otherwise, just go on to your next point. And I would like to hear Dan's comments on the next point, whatever it
no
is.
direct mention of that. There's no direct, explicit mention of that. But let me just continue. Janneman Malan, he's been waiting on the sidelines. Got quite a few chances during the COVID times when the Proteas played teams without a lot of guys available. He's done a great job to take all those chances. Now we're in a situation that when any guy comes into the team and he's showing that our talent depth is continuing to grow. So we rested Quinton, and Malan happened to take his chances. And as a result of that, he learned plenty of batting from batting alongside Quinton de Kock today. So he's giving the selectors a good headache. As far as the picking the best 11 is concerned, it's not easy because a lot of these players are excellent cricketers, and Aiden's batted out of position at franchise level and sometimes batted at number 3 internationally. So there are a lot of quality players coming through, guys putting pressure on each other. There's a nice level of competition. sooner or later, somebody's going to miss out, and this kind of competition keeps everyone on their toes.
Can I just stop you there quickly? Because that's a massive point over there. Because I don't think this is a situation where you say, okay, Quentin de Kock learns a lot from you. They've been partners at the Blitz for how long already? They know each other's game pretty well, I think. And maybe on the international stage, it's a different story. But they do understand each other's games. They've learned a lot from each other with their time at the Blitz. I mean, 2 seasons at the Blitz together. They know each other's games pretty well. Now, Dan, I want to ask you about that, because saying that it's a selection headache means that they're deciding whether they must pick him in or not still. They still having a headache over it, where it should have been a solution. It should have been the painkiller to the headache that they've been having. What's your thoughts on that?
I was going to say, a headache to me sounds like you're saying we don't know who we're going to pick. We've got so many great choices, and I think Malan has kind of shown today that it's not a choice, and I get from their perspective it's hard because you're picking the 11 best cricketers in the country, and as much as we like to say, oh, this person had an off day or this person might not deserve to be in the team, they're still top 25 players in the country. They're still the kind of guy that if they show up at your Sunday game, it's over. You might as well just not play the game because they're going to absolutely dominate the field. That being said, at the same time, what scares me again is this fact that I think Mampach is getting answers, but he's not thinking out of the box enough as a coach to me to say, okay, so I've got 1 and 2 sorted. Now I'm going to look at my 3, like how Paul said earlier, finding your guys, not assigning roles, but finding their role and saying, okay, you're my slugger. You're going to be my slugger on domestic level. You're going to be my slugger at international level. You're going to be my slugger if you play cricket against your son and he's 4. I don't care. Like, you're going to knock that tennis ball out of the park every time. Focusing on where players the natural game is and building around that is the key to success. That's why we're seeing such a dangerous English side, because they've built this culture of saying, just do your job and we'll give you the tools to build. And what is scaring me is what I see in the SA selection squad is kind of a lot of people saying, I know you're great at laying tile, but I need you to fix this Mazda for me. So you go fix that Mazda, and it's going to be great. Like, you're a pro at this. You've fixed things before. Tiles and Mazdas are the same. Just go.
So, like, when I hear that comment from Mark that Abai mentioned, it kind of feels like the selectors are still wanting to persist with Aiden as an opener in ODIs. That, for me, is the big issue, because if you look at the numbers, Aiden's averaging 28. He's played 31 ODIs. This man's only played 12 ODIs, and he's averaging, it was like 120 now, or however many ODIs he's played. So the question is, what's the plan at the top? Are you wanting to give Aiden a run? Yes, Aiden's found form in this year in tests as well as in T20, so it could translate to ODIs. It just so happened that the one game was rained out and he got out in the last game very early. But surely now, when you have someone like doing what Aiden did in T20s, doing it in ODIs, kicking the door down, surely you have to go and persist with this guy and say to Aiden, if there's an injury or if something happens, like there's a massive loss in form, you'll get your look in. But for now, I'm persisting with Quinny and Janneman, and you'll be carrying drinks, or you're going to bat at 4. But as Dan says, we're wanting guys who open in domestic to bat at 4 just because, hey, they've batted at 4, they've batted wherever it is before, just for one game. So I think we just need to, I think my worry there is, surely, as you say, Khalid, Janneman's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's scoring just scoring 50s or scoring 40s or 30s. He's scoring big 50s and big hundreds. So it's not like he's knocking down the door with a little bit of a jab. He's actually smashing that door down with the performances that he's putting in. Abai. Oh, sorry, Dan.
I was just gonna say, it's mesmerizing to me because it's also not like they were one player short and went to the crowd and said, "Is anyone here bad?" And like a 12-year-old Janneman Malan put his hand up timidly and then got selected. Like, he's got a long reputation as being a guy that comes out and throws his bat. So don't come here and be like, "Oh, who knew?" Like, you knew. You selected him for the team.
Abai, let's just move on the points quickly, and I want Aditya to answer the next one that you. I always like to put you on the spot there. You don't even know what's coming out here, Aditya. But anyway, so Abai, from your perspective, is there anything that he spoke about? Did anybody ask him about Temba Bavuma as captain or his Temba's captaincy or anything? Did anybody mention that at all in the presser? If not, then you can just move on to another point. Interesting.
No, they haven't. So far in this press, I gave you the appetizer. Now the main course. Here's a dessert. So, see, Ireland is a very good team. They've beaten England before, and they know these conditions very well. We got first-hand experience of that in the second game. We had a bad day, which is not abnormal for any cricket team. With the World Cup on the way, there's spots to play for. That's a bonus for us as a management group. The conditions were very conducive to turn. Gives us the opportunity to provide chances for the spinners. It's a very good test of character. And if we get to the final stage of the World Cup, we have to know how to take down top sides. We'll have to play our best quality cricket. There'll be opportunities in the group stage games to do that. And looking at our pool, it's pretty tough. There's no doubt about that.
Aditya, you can go. Sorry, I'm laughing because Dan posted something in the group. He showed all of Paul's facial expressions from when Abai spoke about what Boucher said until the end in his reaction in sequence. So it's pretty funny. Sorry, I would be able to show you guys, but I don't know if I can. But anyway, Aditya, from your perspective, what do you think about that Boucher said about it?
I'm confused. I don't know what else to say, because he suddenly is talking about group stages and the World Cup and things like that, and we haven't even exhausted our conversation on these three ODIs. But look, fact of the matter is, anything Boucher says, it's reflective of the fact that there seems to be very little clarity with respect to selection in this team. And sure, he likes Aiden, he's worked with Aiden, and that's a pick on potential, but picking Janneman is now a selection based on performance, because as you very rightly said, he's smashing the door down and he deserves to play in this team. But one other thing that I'd say, which is an extension of Charles Langewald's press conference, is that they need to talk about the bowling group more. They need to manage that better, because when I look at what Boucher said at the end of Pakistan and the conversation going around now, there's very little consistency. And Langewald himself admitted that they perhaps need to look at developing a separate core of bowlers for the different formats, because having test bowlers go from bowling hard test lengths to then adapting to the T20s and now the ODIs with no more than one training session between each of them is not helping, and it's contributing to poorer performances. So all in all, I don't know. I'm just getting convoluted messages from.
No, but what you're getting, I think, in Pakistan was the blue sky that they wanted, but even now, because of the way these series are going, and because Boucher started his international career as a coach very badly, he's more focused on winning. And in order for you to win, like today, there was no need for you to play Quinny. Regardless, if he had decided to rest Quinny because it's bubble fatigue, there's no need for you to play Quinny. But the only reason you needed to was because you weren't sure that you were going to win the game without him. Right? That speaks to a man or a coach or a selection group and a coach and a whatever and a captain that are under pressure, that need to try and win. Because if you looked at Mark Boucher's, if he looked at a schedule of teams he was going to play, this was supposed to be a series win. Right now, he's got a series draw to add to all the other losses he's had and draws he's had in his career. I think it's now 14 series or 15 series, and he's only won like 4, and he's drawn like 2. So it's and I stand corrected on that. It's similar numbers there, but it feels to me like he's being forced to play his best 11 in every single game, which kind of tells you about this thing about selection headache. It's not a selection headache. We don't have talent in this country that's pushing people out, because if you did, you'd be able to trust the guys one step below to win your games, but he's not. Even from a bowling perspective, it took him this long to give Lazard an opportunity. Sisanda had to go and get injured before he got himself a game, and now he's back in South Africa. So for me, he's on the back foot, and I thought he'd be fine after the West Indies, but what happened on Tuesday kind of took everything back. And it feels like, as you say, Khalid, we take one step forward and we take 3 steps back, and now he's trying to regain ground, because we were all so angry that they lost to Ireland, and the only way he didn't want to lose a ODI series to Ireland, because that would have been it. That would have been the end for him. There's no other reason for you to keep him. He had to then go to a guy who they were resting. Yes, bubbles are different. Quinny loved the Caribbean bubble. This one's a little bit different, even though they're playing a little bit of golf and it's a castle and it looks beautiful. But if the plan was to rest Quinton, why was he playing today? You're scared. You're playing scared. And that's not good, because we can't see other people. You can't give other guys an opportunity because you're focused on results. And yes, we want results, but if you lost to Ireland with a B team or guys who are taking opportunities, that's much more excusable than you losing to Ireland with what is a semblance of a team that could start the 2023 World Cup.
And also the comments about Aiden, like saying that, oh no, he's batted out of position in domestic cricket before, but then you give him one opportunity and then you drop him again. So then what do you want with Aiden then? As well, you're messing around Heinrich as well by picking him one game, dropping him another game if he doesn't perform. Like that inconsistency is never going to get you anywhere with regards to finding that person that's going to bat at that 5-6 position. I can understand they listened to us with regards to David Miller and giving him a rest basically for this particular game to let him just like cool it. But then you should be playing the 2 guys that you think that are going to play in those positions then. Don't pick now. Kyle Verreynne, he's picked consistently. Now, what's he going to do with Kyle? The next game, is he going to throw Kyle away? Kyle didn't get a chance today to bat. So, like, what do you base it on now? That's confusing me. He's in the positions that we're struggling to find.
I have a question about Aiden and ODIs. He's played 31. He's averaged 28. On what basis, outside of the form that he's received early in the year, does he deserve a run in the side? Or are we questioning him in the side? Guys are out here telling us, no, Aiden at 3, Aiden at 3, Aiden at 3. But on what basis? He's had 31 chances. He averages 28. Like, I don't get this. This could have been his last chance saloon, but there's a man there who's scoring at 75. Why are we still having Aiden hanging around the team, around the starting 11? And if people want to come for Bavuma, go look. Bavuma averages 45 in ODIs. Like, how do you drop a guy like that? If not, both Aiden and Bavuma out the side, bring somebody else in. But for me, that's my question. On what basis? On what basis?
Yeah, and what I would add into that, sorry, just Bavuma is also probably one of the better, if not the best fielder on that side. And we've already seen some terrible fielding decisions, some poor just relay drops and catches and stuff. Like, wouldn't you want to bring your best fielding side, knowing that fielding is what saves the game. Like, fielding is your defense. And there's a lot of guys that have been given a nod and given a chance, and we're kind of starting to ask, how many more times there are. But there's like 4 players that keep coming up all the time, but without people saying who they drop them for. They just say, oh, this, Temba has to go. But for who? Like, who else would you put in his place, as opposed to just saying, like, this reminds me of the old rugby, where people would be like, no, Zane Kirshner must go, and they must select another forward. And you're like, but Zane Kirshner is a backline player. So there's a disconnect here. Like, you can't just make that guy fix the Mazda if he fixes tiles.
Abai, I think let's wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to say, or is that you want to leave it for the guys to read the piece on the website?
I think it's just better to keep the suspense.
Okay, cool, awesome. So guys, go ahead to cricketfanaticsmate.com to see the actual article, and we'll post the press conference as well on our channel as well.
Within an hour's time. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do this. Okay, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for watching the game, supporting us on the stream. It was an excellent conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got some insight into what we think about it. Obviously, ahead of the T20 series, we will go in depth again for that and pick our teams and do etc. and all the previews that you are used to. We'll be back with another daily show tomorrow as per usual. Oh no, we're not. It's Saturday tomorrow. I didn't even know. But okay. So a break for us, guys. So anyway, so thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the show and enjoyed the video. Thanks a lot, Aditya, Dan, and Abai for coming on the show. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and we'll see you guys again soon. Take care.